In this video, we are talking about the fan reaction to the D23 Expo 2022. It's been crazy on social media in regards to that. And we're going to talk about Chapek's kind of new persona, this kind of new PR blitz for Chapek and how he's kind of received. It's been pretty effective, actually, but we're going to dive into that up next on OG 55. Welcome back to another episode of OG 55. Today, I brought my good friend AliaaAloha back on the show to talk about Chapek PR, talk about D23 Expo. Alia, as always, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me back. I think I could talk. Endorphins are going already.
Well, Alia, if you could let everybody home know where they could find you on social media.
On Twitter at AliaaAloha. You see the handle down there, and I can't remember if I reversed image, so I'm afraid to point in a corner. So I'll just in the center, AliaaAloha. I'll copy Dre a bit, but instead of 1,000, I'll start small. I'd like to get to 500. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's do it. Let's get Alia to 500.
I feel like a person on Price is Right. Give me 500.
So let's dive into some D23, because this has actually been very, very interesting. This past weekend, we had the D23 Expo. And, just to kind of set the table a little bit, like I wasn't really home for this parks panel. And I'm checking out the websites, like WDWNT and Blog Mickey, and I'm kind of refreshing and kind of looking at all these announcements. And I'm getting hyped. I'm like, wow, this stuff looks pretty cool. We're getting quite a bit of stuff. I was happy. Then I logged into Twitter and it was like, not so much. Everyone's like, oh my God, the end of the world. This is like the worst expo we've ever had. Literally, people were saying this is the worst expo we've ever had. And I don't know where they're getting that, but it was pretty wild. But Alia, what are your kind of overall thoughts in regards to the social media fan response to this expo?
I'm in shock. I know I'll use the term Chapek used super fans. I know super fans can be particular and specific, but I tend to be a glass half full person, positive. I just kind of view it as I don't get my paycheck from Disney, so it's not my stress. This is a hobby. It's fun.
Right,
I'm having fun with this. So I admit that I'm coming from that philosophical outlook. So I gave it like an A-, B+. So I thought, okay, that's my grade. Then I think the super fans will give it maybe a B-, C+, because I know they can be very particular, very picky. But feedback from Twitter is, and from what I could see, is in the D, F range, which really shocks me.
I'm telling you.
And I think it's going to hurt us big time in the eyes of Disney. I unfortunately hate to say so.
No, I completely agree with you on that. And it's funny because like I've been following the theme park stuff for a real long time. And when I hear people say this was the worst one in terms of like announcements and what have you, I don't see that because I'm a Disneylander. I'm more of like an Anaheim guy. Well, in terms of Anaheim, I don't think we've ever really had like, and I've said it on the show many times. I've been saying it, in many videos over the span of years now, that they never really focus on Disneyland Resort, usually at the expo. It's usually the Walt Disney World show. And so, this year, we actually got a decent amount of stuff Disneyland did. That Avengers Multiverse ticket. We got a new fireworks show, New World of Color. We got that cool, like, Robo Hulk thing that walks around. There was a lot of cool stuff. And I'm like, this is pretty solid for the Disneyland Resort. Compared to 2017, all we got was the announcement of Pixar Pier. And I think that's just about it. 2019, we got some really vague concept art for Avengers Campus. And Magic Happens Parade. And that was all we got in 2019. So compared to the last 2 expos, I think this year has been really, really solid, at least on the Disneyland front. But man, you talk to some fans, or you watch some videos on YouTube, and you would think that they didn't announce anything. It was just like a goose egg. I'm like, what's going on? Am I crazy? Like,
I think we're both going insane because are we in another universe or something?
Right, multiverse.
I just like, what? Did I see a different parks panel or something? And I know Daddy Josh, he seems in tune to the social media and the big time super fan YouTube channels, and I think his mouth is I think he's crying maybe. I don't know, because what they think matters to him, you can tell just from watching some videos of what they say and just what he says, and I think he's in shock.
I think so too. Daddy Josh is very much like Bob Iger. He's very much a smooth, suave kind of guy, very image conscious, and I think that he's been very conditioned, very used to the fans kind of like fawning over him, like Daddy Josh, Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's sort of wearing off. I think people are starting to kind of see like, well, okay, he's a nice guy, definitely, but it's maybe he's not the executive we thought he was, or maybe he's not the best for this role, or whatever it is. But I think that is kind of fading. I think fans are starting to see some flaws in his management style or what have you, and I do think he's probably taken aback by it. But on this, and I've been very critical about Daddy Josh. On this, though, I gotta kind of take his side in that I think he came through for the most part in that parks panel, and I think, in my humble opinion, I think the fans are kind of being a little bit. I mean, look, anyone can be disappointed. Like you always have a right to be disappointed, but I just feel like overall, I think that the fans are kind of taking it to an extreme level when we're hearing stuff like, "Oh, it's the worst expo ever." A little hyperbolic considering what we got in past expos were far less, but I don't know. Yeah. It's pretty it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy.
And the top complaints seem to be nothing to counter Epic Universe and no Tomorrowland news in Disneyland. And my response to that is the Epic Universe response. That was the blue sky portion. I think Disney Parks was giving a wink, wink. This is what we're eyeing. This is what we're gonna do. Yes, there's gonna be tweaks, but this is our response, because they're not going to show their soft belly to Universal. Our response to Epic Universe. But right now it's maybe 10, 15 years down the road. But if Epic Universe, Comcast, Universal breathes down their neck, they're going to accelerate it. But I really think that was their response to Epic Universe. So when people say there's no response to Epic Universe, that was the response. But maybe they wanted it to open in a year or 2 years, or same day as Epic Universe. And Disney's just not going to act that way, especially with dealing with the debt from the Fox purchase. I think I can talk the Fox purchase. There's the recession. They're going to be more cautious with money, not spend it until they absolutely have to. And I think the next thing would be Tomorrowland, and where there's smoke, there's fire. I think something was going on, but I think it was Lightyear related. And when Lightyear bombed, I think they were waiting to see how it did on Disney Plus. They wanted to see if they had another Encanto, and its first week was good, but the second week it didn't bomb the second week on Disney Plus. But per Nielsen, it was about a 48, less than 50% fall, which isn't bad, but it's not enough to base a land on that, the update for Tomorrowland at Disneyland. So back to the drawing board. But I do think that they were going to, I think Lightyear was the focus for Tomorrowland. And when that went poof, they were like, okay.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent theory. And I think you're spot on with that. And in terms of Epic Universe, I think that a lot of fans kind of get into this thing where they feel like Disney needs to respond like right away. Like the minute Epic Universe opens, Disney needs to have like a response ready to go. And I understand like the fan desire to have that, but from a business perspective, you don't want to overreact to something that might not pan out. And I know a lot of fans are kind of assuming that this epic universe is going to
It'd
be
be
the most
huge. Yeah.
right. This it's going to be this thing that's just going to be, massively successful, and it might be.
Mhm.
But you also have to account for the fact that it might not. It might fall short because look, the expectations for Epic Universe are through the roof. So
Yeah.
really anything short of this thing completely revolutionizing the theme park industry is kind of a disappointment at this point. It's the expectations are that high. So
Wow.
why is
So
Disney?
they
Yeah,
have
it's
pressure on them. Universal Studios, Comcast does.
major pressure, major pressure. So why would Disney spend all this money to react to something they don't even know how it's going to be received? That's
Mhm.
not good business strategy. It really isn't. And so they're going to wait. And look, Disney's waited before and they didn't collapse when they did Wizarding World over there at Universal. Disney didn't respond immediately. They waited a few years and did Pandora and then
And that was
Galaxy's Edge,
huge. But yeah, they were fine.
and they were fine. And and they'll be fine with this, and but they have to step back and kind of see what Epic Universe does before they can react. You don't want to just jump the gun and be too reactionary, with this stuff. It's a lot of money to throw into something. You want to make sure that you're putting it in the right direction, basically, So I don't know. It's interesting, but there's not a whole lot of conversation around that Epic Universe thing possibly not being a success, and it's a real possibility. It is a real possibility
That it might just be middle, like, okay, this is fun, but nah, exactly. And then Disney will be like, oh, okay, good thing we didn't. We'll still
right.
invest in the parks, but we don't have that foot on our neck kind of thing. So
right. Well, and the other thing too is kind of like this whole idea of like a rising tide kind of raises all ships, right? So Disney might have the mindset where like we don't really need to have anything ready to go when Epic Universe opens, because when people come to Orlando, even if they go for Epic Universe, they're still going to come to Disney World. It's like coming to Anaheim, and if California Adventure has a new ride, you're naturally going to go to Disneyland. It's the same thing over there in Florida. If Universal has a new thing, that they'll go to that, but you're not going to go to Orlando and not go to Disney World, though. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. For the normies, as they say, the general public, general audience, that's going to be the average occurrence. I know there's people on Twitter, I won't do that, or I'm so mad at Disney, and Epic Universe is going to be lit. But they don't they don't represent the average opinion. But sometimes everybody gets in their bubble and thinks just how they think is the way the general audience is going to respond, and that's not true. So
no, 100%. There's definitely that, and people have to understand. And I'm not trying to say like, just so people at home, there's no confusion. I'm not trying to say the Epic Universe is like destined to fail. There's a high probability it'll be very successful, but there is that chance it's going to fall flat or fall short or whatever. And Disney needs to be kind of step back and prepare for that possibility, So it's interesting. I don't know. It's very interesting to see how that whole thing pans out. They know what they're doing. I'm not too concerned about that. They'll react if they have to, and kind of go from there, And in terms of your Tomorrowland, to kind of touch upon again your Tomorrowland theory, I think you're spot on with that. I think that they were definitely, all their eggs were kind of in that Lightyear basket. They really thought, okay, Toy Story, this thing is gonna just be $1 billion movie. It's gonna, and there were, I think, definite plans to kind of retheme either Space Mountain or the whole land into Lightyear.
To resemble that port, that community that sprang up around the turnip. That's
yes,
called it.
exactly. And the movie didn't do well in theaters, so they pulled back on that, and that's why I think we didn't see anything, because they don't have anything. It was all based on that movie.
Mm-hmm. They didn't have a plan B because they thought it was going to be huge, and so where there's smoke, there's fire. So yeah, I think that's why there was the rumors, because it was going to be connected to Lightyear, and when Lightyear didn't do as well, they're like, okay, we want to update Tomorrowland, but back to the drawing board. So,
back to the drawing board.
And
100%.
I kind of wonder if that's why. I mean, maybe the alternate plans were. Maybe that's why, thinking the synergy, which Walt Disney came up with the synergy machine. You showed that. You shared that item that he created, or he and the Imagineers created, but. that might be one of the reasons why Strange World is around the corner, and then Elio, because they want to update Tomorrowland. They're looking, there could be a mixture of those two. They're looking for a science fiction property that takes off that they can then base Tomorrowland on. That's why I kind of feel why there's that focus on science fiction, because I think Kareem maybe, or someone up above said to Walt Disney Animation Studios and Pixar, for the next theme of your animated feature, please have science fiction. We want to update Tomorrowland. And, they went from there. And then, because I think they thought, we got it with Lightyear, but just in case we don't, make these movies. But then meanwhile, Imagineering focused just on Lightyear. I don't think they had alternates. I think, though, Disney proper up on top, though, is thinking of IP. Yes, that's what it is. But yeah. IP ideas for Tomorrowland. I think that's why you're seeing almost a science fiction focus from Walt Disney Animation Studios and Pixar coming up.
That's a great point. No, that's a great one, actually, Aaliyah, because we've heard from Chapek say he wants more coordination between these different divisions: animation, theme parks, streaming, all this stuff. So that definitely kind of tracks into basically Chapek's kind of overall vision for the company, to kind of have that coordination, right? And I think that was actually one of the reasons why he actually cited that he fired Peter Rice, was because he didn't have that kind of like that team player kind of mindset that Chapes was looking for, to kind of work with other units. So it wouldn't surprise me if there is, like you said, a big push for these science fiction animated films to kind of have some kind of franchises that they can kind of pump into Tomorrowland. Because once 10, 15 years ago, the big names were Star Wars and Marvel for Tomorrowland. But those properties are already spoken for now. They have their own areas, right? So now they got to look somewhere else.
Hindsight being 2020, maybe they should have just Galaxy's Edge could have been like Tomorrowland. I mean, that could be their regret. Like, oh, why not do that? But
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's kind of changed the whole thing, and now they have to look at other properties, and that's, like you said, with the Elio and the Strange World. Maybe these will take off, and then they can utilize them. Now, it's interesting, and you brought it up to me. You mentioned the one thing on the expo that was kind of disappointing was that they didn't mention the treehouse.
That was my only, and it wasn't enough for me to DEF, but it was kind of like no mention of the tree, when that's, like you mentioned, you told me that they took down the sign to signify it's related to Tarzan, and there's construction and everything, and yet. So it's something people see happening. So I don't know why Daddy Josh didn't mention it. So that was the only what. But it wasn't enough for me to. It wasn't enough to ruin the parks panel for me.
No, me neither. I'm not like super invested in that project one way or the other. I would have liked to have known, but it didn't kill it, or it didn't make or break anything for me. That was surprising, though. That was definitely something that I thought, okay, that's going to be a for sure, because. Well, they've started on it, and they've been working on it, and I'm like, oh, they got to announce this thing. They got to announce it, and nothing. So we'll see how that whole thing pans out with the treehouse. I'm very, very curious as to what theme they choose.
I'm hoping
and
for
all
C.
that. Yeah, right. Yeah, the secrecy with this one is really
because that's what's interesting. It gives C as an IP. Because they're investing in like that, the fiction books and just the whole way it ties into the different theme parks. So in a way, C is an IP, but it can give an original flavor. So I think that's very intriguing, the potential with the C properties.
Yeah. No, I like that. I love C. That it's a society of adventurers and I'm sorry, a society of explorers and adventurers.
I know. I can see it.
I'm always like, wait. But it's a great Imagineering based IP, and I've even heard rumors like from a year or so ago that they were looking into like creating like content like on Disney Plus, kind of around the C franchise. So maybe it's all part of that synergy machine, like we talked about. Like they'll do the treehouse based on C, and then that'll like kind of like coordinate with like the C Disney Plus show that comes out after, or something like that. So I'm all for that. I think that'd be really, really cool. And we'll see. We'll kind of have to see how that all pans out. But one major thing from this expo. We're going to shift gears a little bit. One major thing that came out of this expo was a noticeable difference, both physically and even kind of like in terms of like mannerisms with Bob Chapek.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there has definitely been, since his new PR person, Christina Shockey, has taken over, I think back in May, which in my opinion, I think Christina has done a phenomenal job with the PR, because pre-Christina, it was constantly, he was constantly having to put out fires. It was like every week there was some new thing, right? And since she took over, it's been significantly better. And I'm seeing, and I know you're seeing too on social media, people kind of warming up to Chapek. He's got the beard, softens his look a little bit. The PR game has greatly improved. But what are your thoughts on Chapek's PR game and how it relates to D23 Expo, how he behaved and how he presented himself at the expo?
I could see a huge improvement. I think he was, as you mentioned, you wanted to see the Chapek that was around his friends and family. I think that's who we saw. And who knows, that could have been advice from Christina. And I could see, it wasn't, a huge 180, but I could see great improvement from speeches and presentations he's done in the past, even about a year ago or so, to the recent D23, the Legends ceremony and all that. And then just all the trade interviews, Deadline, The Hollywood Reporter, I'm sure Variety had one too. Yeah, they probably did too. It's just even you could tell the questioning and the presentation of the article based on the interview, and then having the interview, the writers and the trades are warming up to him too. Hollywood's warming up to him in a lot of ways. And then the New York Times had that article kind of focused on Christina's work with Chapek, and they mentioned that she was pretty much with him 24/7 at that expo. They said joined at the hip.
Wow.
Well, 8 pairs of shoes, because a lot of walking.
Well, she's done a great job though. She really I've noticed a huge difference in how he handles things now, a huge difference in how he's perceived in the media. I just, and this is the thing, before Christina, it was Jeff Morrell, I believe his name was.
It's like
I think it was Jeff Morrell.
GEOFF, something like that.
Correct. And he was like a former BP oil guy, right? And like a Bush admin person. And I'm like, okay, not the best guy when you're like a big Hollywood CEO, because Hollywood, let's be honest, it's Hollywood's much more left leaning. So you're gonna have this Bush admin / big oil guy as your PR person that's going to talk to these trades. Oh my God, it's a disaster waiting to happen, right? I mean,
she worked with Obama and Michelle Obama and Hillary Clinton. So, whatever your opinion of those individuals are, with Hollywood, that matters. So that helped her to open doors with the trades and warm things up, because she was seen as an ally, as a friend. So.
Right, 100%. Christina Shockey, she like you said, worked with like Biden and Hillary and Obama, and like you said, like when you're dealing with like Hollywood trades, they're gonna feel more comfortable around someone like Shockey than the BP / Bush admin guy. It never made sense to me that Chapek chose Jeff Morrell for that, but I think he made the right choice with Christina. I think she's doing a fantastic job. Even our guy Bellani, right, was talking good about him recently, which is kind of unique.
The New York Times pretty much friendly article about Chapek, mentioning Christina and her work and all that, but they mentioned that about the beard, and there was some talk he looks like a villain, but then they mentioned that GQ passed the GQ test. What is it, Gentleman's Quarterly magazine? They said he's rocking that power beard. And then when you click on the article, Baloney's got a big quote in there, and it was pretty friendly, considering how Baloney was almost to the point of being to Chapek. And it was like warming up, positive, because like you mentioned, he's going to be there 3 years. People, it's going to drive you crazy if you're waging a war against him. So it's just best to,
Right. Exactly. And I really do think this whole David Zaslav thing over at Warner Brothers makes really
Chapek look like an angel.
Oh yeah. I mean, he is really, Zaslav is going through some major stuff right now, and it's really taking the heat off Chapes quite a bit. You know, I mean, it's the stuff that Zaslav's going like. I would say, like, honestly, the Zaslav stuff has been on par or maybe even worse than some of the stuff that Chapek has gone through over the past year and a half. I mean, it's pretty bad. So he got a lot of heat for that Batgirl cancellation. A lot of heat.
And then, yeah, they're still kind of defending it like it was fine. The internet overreacted, and it's just I don't know if that's the great PR angle. So they're having PR hiccups. They're going through that now.
Well, yeah, and it makes look, and there was a lot of talk when Chapek had that like thing with ScarJo, you know, about talent relationships. Well, when you cancel, and I have no investment personally to Batgirl. I'm not really a DC person, and I'm not a Batgirl fan necessarily, but when you can a movie like that, and the way he did it,
done,
right? It's kind of like a middle finger to the talent that was working on that, you know, and I've seen it like in the trades. A lot of these trades are talking about how the relationship with a lot of these like directors and producers and what have you with Warner has really deteriorated because of that move. Because now a lot of these creators are thinking, well, like, okay, so I'm going to put my heart and soul into a project, and then what, Zaslav's going to come in like when it's 90% done and tell me that it's over?
Because I think Zaslav's opinion was, oh, you got paid, so what's the big deal? He doesn't understand that creative mindset of you want to see your work on the screen, even if it's the small screen, even if it's meant straight for streaming. You want to see your work. You know, it helps with networking and stuff. When something like that is canceled, it potentially affects how talent is perceived, because you did see people wondering about the talent of the directors. It was just not good.
It's not good, and I think that's taken a lot of the heat from Chapek. So it's
I think Chapek sent him flowers.
Yeah, he should. Yeah, Chapek should definitely send him flowers. Actually, I actually sent a we both watched Josh Den of Nerds. We are both huge fans of Den of Nerds. Phenomenal Nerd Vengers. Love his content. Really creative, funny guy. His live shows are just a total blast. But I sent him a super chat. I made that joke about how, like, you know, I think Chapek should really send Zaslav a thank you note because he's really taking the heat off. And Josh, like, basically in a nutshell, basically said, yeah, you know, dude, you're kind of right. Like, we all thought Zaslav was like the chosen one, and it's not actually turning out to be the case necessarily. So.
And what makes it more heightened was Zaslav. He did all those meetings. He's worked with Iger at Horn, and you know, I don't know this. They don't seem to be. And then Iger saying Chapek was his worst decision ever, and saying nothing about Zaslav. It makes you think, okay, what's going? You know, you don't have that great character, big picture Iger then if you're doing that. So
it's interesting, right? Because like Team Iger has sort of hitched their wagon to the Zaslav train, right? Like.
Because they know, Zaslav is working with him, or Iger is like a consultant along with Horn. So
right, well, along with Alan Horn, so they've kind of hitched their wagon on that Zazzy train, and it's like I wonder if, like, what do you think? Do you think that Iger and even Horn maybe is sort of regretting that? Because it's kind of come back to bite them in the ass a little bit, because they're kind of going through the same stuff they tried to create against Chapek, and now they're having the same problem with their guy Zaslav. Do you think the Iger and Horn are kind of regretting the decision to sort of get in bed with that Warner team?
I think so, because the big thing now, and you know, because if you used to be CEO of Disney, so unfortunately when he makes the news, then especially when you try to look for Disney stock specific news, it fills up the whole row or the whole column. You're like, but especially because Iger recently became a consultant or something like that, to venture capitalist or something like that. And so he's just trying to spread his wings more. I think he thought maybe that's it, but he's like, oh, okay. And then Horn was kind of, I think, publicly embarrassed when Lynn backed away from leading the DCEU, because I think Lynn was like one of his recommendations. So, and then that didn't work out because Zaslav wasn't willing to buy out Lynn's production company or something like that. And I think Lynn too was just, he couldn't get any assurance. He was horrified by with Batgirl, and who knows, maybe Horn's like, oh, you can work things out. Then maybe in his meetings with Zaslav, maybe that didn't go too well. Zaslav was pretty much, nope, I have final say, and Lynn was probably like,
wow. Oh, I think I might have lost you for a second, Alia. Uh-oh, I think I lost Alia. Oh, is she there? Nope. Oh, there we go. Alia, you're back?
I'm back. Did both of our internet strike?
I think so. I think we had like a little glitch in the matrix. But I wanted to ask you.
Everybody.
We are back. I wanted to ask you, speaking of the PR stuff with Chapek and all that, what were your thoughts on this whole like booing of Chapek? I'm sure you've seen the videos, you've listened to them. I did a video with Dre about it, and I honestly think it's, number one, a bad look for fans. It doesn't make Chapek look bad, number one. But number two, I don't think there were very many people doing it. You really have to listen to make out any of the boos. But what are your thoughts and kind of opinions on that whole situation?
Well, I did from the video, like Instagram videos and social media videos taken, and they would like, the booing. And I would listen and listen. I really would have to, I don't know, turn the volume up high to hear it. And sometimes it even sounded like woo, like people were trying to hide the boo. They were cowardly. And then in the official feed, the live stream, yes, Disney, D23, they did something with the audio, but I really don't blame them. They saw all the threats, and there's a conspiracy with that, but I don't blame them. They're lucky they weren't kicked out, personally.
Yeah, no,
and
absolutely.
As far as though the PR aim with the booing, to me, they failed because none of the trades mentioned it at all. And New York Times, in that article about Chapek, the softer side of Chapek, they briefly mentioned it, but then they went on to mock one of the people that booed. They said one of those booing vigorously when Chapek announced the Avengers attraction, he went to his feet and cheered. So
God, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So that person was mocked. The people who were booing were mocked by the New York Times and not mentioned at all by the trade. So to me, I mean, yes, I know the super fans that are against Chapek are like, woohoo, we did it. But big picture, they were a PR fail.
Yeah, I think it was a fail. Absolutely. And you're never going to change anything doing that kind of stuff. You know, if you want to change something,
you're seen as a wacko.
You're seen as a wacko. You know, you're seen as like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you, well, have you ever seen the Imagineering story on Disney Plus, Alia?
I love that documentary. Yes,
it's a great documentary.
What Kim mentioned, yeah.
Right, what Kim Irvine talks about, like when she was going in to kind of add the various Disney characters in a small world, the kind of like threats that she received from fans and like just the vitriol about it. And she was like kind of taken aback by it. It's like, and that's the thing. And not all fans are like that. Absolutely not. But that's the problem though, is that a lot of these people, these creatives and these executives, they see that stuff and it makes fans look crazy. And then you solidify that when you get to a place like D23 and now you're booing like a crazy person. And it's like, it's just not a good look.
And then they see the feedback to the parks panel. It's an F or a D. And so I think Disney's just, dang, those super fans. And so, I mean, yeah, everybody had their initial high of booing, or, you know, those people had their initial high of booing, or even with the videos and the tweets disparaging the parks panel. But I think long-term it's going to hurt, you know, whatever positive we had with Disney as the super fans. I think it's going to hurt it. I'm, you know, Daddy Josh, even his reflection about it. I don't think he's going to come. I don't think he's going to try, but I think he's going to be like, what happened? What did I say that was so wrong? Or what did I announce that was so wrong?
No, and he said nothing wrong. And it's like, he was fine. And even in that like whole part of the panel where he was kind of giving like that blue sky stuff, he made it very clear. This is like possibilities and all this stuff.
Which, well, though, that seemed to anger a lot of people. They just like, what, we're part of the pitch meeting or what? But hey, you always want Disney to listen. So maybe, you know, they're trying to gauge reaction.
Right.
And so
Right.
they're probably going to just go by applause. I don't think they're going to look now at the internet because the internet's going crazy about it.
No, you can't. There comes a point when you can't look at the internet. Like Disney has to just do, and I've said this about Star Wars as well. Disney cannot get too like bogged down in the weeds with kind of chasing what fans want. I mean, you want to make fans happy, but you kind of have to do your own thing too and trust you're making a good product, because I'm telling you, the fans, I don't even think the fans know what they want half the time. I got to be honest with you. Like, I remember a decade ago, people were complaining there were too many annual pass holders, the parks were too crowded. And now the narrative is that Disney doesn't allow every Magic Key holder into the park whenever they want to go, and it's too expensive and all this other stuff. Well, okay, but I thought you were just saying a few years ago that the parks are too crowded, and now you want to let everybody in? What is it? You know, you can't have it all ways.
It's not possible to do both. It's not possible.
You got to mitigate somehow, right? You got to mitigate it somehow. There's too much demand. So,
and a lot of the way is vote with, like you always say, vote with your wallet. And that's the thing with the booing. I'm paying big bucks to boo. You know, Chapek has the last laugh. As far as showing dissatisfaction, I'm okay with the silent clapping or no clapping. That's a respectful way to show dissatisfaction, but booing is immature. But because I don't feel like I'd be wasting my money if I refused to clap or silent clap if I paid all that money. But if I booed, I don't know. That's just crazy to me. But yes, the big picture is vote with your wallet. So people are complaining, but like you mentioned, and then they buy the Magic Key or all that stuff. It's just vote with your wallet. Feedback with the surveys, and visit with guest relations. But remember, the person behind the desk is a person, so be nice. Don't be a Karen.
Exactly. Yeah, the surveys are important. I actually filled one out today. Every time I get them, I fill them out, and it's just really important to let them know. That's how they kind of gauge where we're at. You know, 100%. 100%. So yeah, I don't know. Overall, kind of final thoughts. I actually was pretty impressed with this D23. I know it's a totally like I'm in the minority with this. I know a lot of fans are like, you know, the world is coming to an end. This is the worst expo ever. I wasn't there. I'm excited for the stuff. I love DCA because it's the underdog, and I always root for that little park. So we're getting a good big Avengers ride there and the Hulk and all that. I'm a happy OG. But hey, a lot of fans are not happy. But Alia, what are your overall thoughts to kind of close it out with the expo? Happy, mid,
happy.
You know, where are you at?
Happy, especially it helped the panels that were available on the live stream. When my mother was visiting over the weekend, she lives not too far away, but hangs out with me over the weekend, and she watched it with me, and she thought it was great. She's a normie, general public. She thought it was fun and great, cool. And so that, you know, also added to the excitement. I wasn't just around super fans. I was with my mom, and even if I watched it by myself, you know, my own little my own bubble with my outlook, it was great. I do want to say with Tiana's Bayou Adventure, I do hope people paid attention. There was huge applause to it at the panel. So those that are against it, you might want to reflect and see you're the minority. But I know that there are those that are cautious, and I don't have any concern about people with that outlook, because yes, the effect footage was odd.
Yeah,
I was mildly embarrassed. I wish they'd give me more to, yes, as you mentioned in that one stream, give me more so that I want to be more of a cheerleader for it. Give me more. So, but I'm thinking I don't know. Do they usually show like interiors within 2 years or so? Interior concepts. So if it's normal. Well,
usually we would get something like an animatronic in like a warehouse. You'll see like the Imagineers kind of.
Okay. Like with the one, the Zootopia one. Gotcha. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Like exactly what they did for Zootopia is pretty much what you would like. What I was expecting kind of for Tiana. We're like, okay, they'll show us the Tiana animatronic, or maybe they'll show us the Lewis, right? And they're working on it, or it's in some warehouse somewhere, something like that. That's typical. So I was a little surprised by the lack of announcements, but I'm one of those people who are like, when it comes to this attraction, definitely concerns, but not concerns necessarily of the the IP, because actually I've said it before, I think the IP is perfect for Disneyland because it's right next to New Orleans Square, and it straddles New Orleans and Critter Country, and this IP plays to both of those lands. This could be a gorgeous attraction, but they just have to really, deliver. So hopefully we'll get more and we'll be more impressed. I agree with you. The lighting mist thing was really underwhelming, but it seems like it's still in the early stages, all this stuff. So we'll see.
And then with Walt Disney World, I know the theming doesn't go as much, but normies, general public, they're not going to notice that or be particular about that. They'll just be like, oh, okay, updated. And then I do, though, think a great olive branch compromise, and I do recommend people to write Disney about this or email, is that just to have the audio, the vocalization of Nick Stewart, who is in history as a Black artist through earlier days in Hollywood, and his voice was in the movie, the controversial movie Song of the South, but his voice was also in Splash Mountain. If somehow they could preserve that and incorporate that into Tiana's Bayou Adventure, I think that'd be a great compromise, olive branch, with people who aren't hateful against the update, but are just kind of nervous about that change. And so I think that would be a great compromise. And I emailed Disney about it. I did get a reply. They don't always reply, so maybe you never know. So if more people do, maybe they'll consider that and preserve Nick Stewart's vocalization audio.
Yeah, no, and I remember you telling me that, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's a fantastic idea, because there's a lot of no, it is. It's a fantastic idea because there's a lot of talent in Song of the South, right? Oh man, I forgot the guy. Yeah, I totally forgot the guy's name, and I totally drew a blank. But there's a lot of talent.
Baxter, last name Baxter.
I don't remember. Man,
I know we're bad. Sorry.
I know. But there's a lot of talent in that movie, voice talent in that movie. Mm-hmm. The actor who played Uncle Remus and all this, right? Yeah. Definitely utilize, I think, that voice talent in the Tiana Bayou Adventure somehow. Why punish these really talented
people? Echo. Maybe don't assign it to an animatronic, but maybe like an echo as you hear, and it's in the background or something. Just some way to preserve it.
Something.
I think that'd be a great. It's not necessary, but it'd be great if they did that. So
it'd be great. It'd be great, because I think it would be a shame to lose that just because like the film is being removed, but it would be great to preserve the amazing talent within that film in this new attraction, even if you have those voices doing, like you said, like in the background, or like it's a little animal, a little otter with the voice, the old voice from
Bear, yeah.
And he's just in the background, but it pays homage to that actor or actress. I think that would be really, really awesome. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think they should absolutely go with it. Hopefully they do, and they responded to you, which is a good sign. Maybe they'll listen, and we'll see.
No, they didn't make any promises, but it was a positive response. And number one, it was a reply, which is rare, and it was a positive response. So maybe, but if more, that wouldn't hurt. So, but be respectful, be kind when you contact them.
100%. Be respectful, kind, professional, and all that. It goes a long way. It really does. Alia, I want to thank you so much for coming on, talk to some D23.
You're welcome.
Talk to some Chapek. I really do appreciate it. Want to have you back on again. Dre and George should be back soon. They're on vacation. We'll get the whole team back together again. We'll have you on. Also want to do a show with you and Matthew. I think Matthew said that I think he said he's out of commission for like 2 weeks or something, but when he's back or not busy, we'll have him on. But Alia, if you can just remind everybody at home where they can find you on social media.
Of course, Twitter, AliaaAloha, and it's there. As I mentioned, I'm really I can't internet sometimes, so I don't know which sides. I'm just gonna, in general, AliaaAloha on Twitter, and I'd like to raise my friend count. So add me, follow. I don't think I'll ever get to 1,000, not even maybe 500, but I just always seem to hover around that 316, 317, and it just always seems to hover there. And I don't know, maybe 350 would be nice, 400, 375. I feel like I'm on The Price is Right with that first thing. That first round, but...
Let's do 500. Let's get Alia to 500. 500 followers on Twitter. We can do it, fam. We can do it. We can do it.
Well, I'll be greedy. That'd be greedy. That'd be greedy. Awesome. Thank you.
And I'll link your Twitter down below in the description.
Thank you.
I'll make it easy for everybody. Just link it. It's in the description down below. Click on it. If you have Twitter, follow her. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You really great stuff in terms of like Disney content, and the corporate stuff that she tweets about is really, really fascinating. So definitely follow Alia. And I want to thank everybody for watching today. Comment down below with your thoughts on Bob Chapek's new beard, his PR blitz, the expo, and all that.
Christina mentioned in that New York Times article that he grew it because he was on vacation. She's like, "Hey, it looks great. Keep it." And he's like, "Oh, okay."
No, yeah, it does. He looks much better. He looks very stylish. He really, really does. It's like they said, it's power beard. It's an absolute power beard.
Rocking the power beard.
Rocking the power beard. Thank y'all so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Aloha.